You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
All right, joining me now to discuss Arkansas politics is Grant Tennille, chairman of the Democratic Party of Arkansas, Richard Bearden with Impact Management Group. What's your former title with the Republican Party of Arkansas? It's been a long time, but you were executive director, or were you chairman?
No, I was executive director. Lloyd Stone was the chairman. I was executive director when we were in the same spot that the chairman is now. We had not very many Republicans back then. Yeah.
All right, you don't have very many Republicans in the Democratic Party anymore?
I actually have more today than I did a week ago.
Good point. All right. Richard Bearden, I come to you first with this question, and don't give me that canned answer that's on that piece of paper you got there. Was it a good week for Governor Sarah Sanders?
Oh, I think so. I mean, look, she cut taxes. I think the heart of what she wanted out of the FOIA reform she got. And they wrapped up in 4 days. So overall, it was a good week.
Yeah. Was it a good week for Governor Sarah Sanders?
It was a good week if you think that given a tax break to the richest third of Arkansans and given the rest 10 days of groceries is a good deal for the state.
Some people would think that's a good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The people who support Governor Sanders.
All right. Was it a good week for her?
No. She came with way too much on the FOI, and she got smacked. And she got smacked by a coalition, an odd coalition, of very conservative Republicans, very liberal Democrats, and the vast majority of the press.
Yeah, and I'd throw some libertarians in there as well. What do you make, Richard, of the pushback from Republicans in the legislature, though? Because that is really where the biggest pushback came. No offense to Grant, but there weren't going to be enough Democrats to stop anything in the legislature. It was the Republicans and Republican leaders that pushed back on that FOI.
I mean, look, the initial maybe concept may have been too broad. But again, the heart of what I think the governor was concerned about, really deep, detailed questions about the security plans, the planning of the governor's security. It's what she was at and concerned about. And look, there are real viable threats, I'm told, not just some conceptual, I don't like her, or, I hope she breaks a leg. Real threats that were a concern. And I think when you start talking about young children and those children in public schools and schools out there and how they're being taken to school, there was a concern,
I didn't hear any Democrats complaining about that aspect of changing the law for the security protection. Was there any pushback on that from anybody in your caucus?
I think that what everybody in the caucus said over and over and over again is there is nobody in Arkansas that wants the governor's family to be in danger. But I think there were legitimate questions about whether the existing FOI law would ever require any of that information to be released. People can ask whatever question they want. Under the law, nobody has to share the details of the governor's security plans.
Yeah. Well,
and in fact,
go ahead.
The only person that I can find after quite a bit of research who has violated the governor's security plan might very well have been the governor herself when she's tweeting out photos of herself and her family or pictures of food with words about herself and her family and telling potential assassins exactly where she is in real time.
Why do you think that the governor pushed for more than just that security detail in this FOI change?
I don't know. She mentioned, and we have some exemptions. Grant was over there, at
AEDC.
At AEDC. We have some exemptions on business, so inner workings. Maybe there is a concern. I don't know the details, Roby, but maybe there is a concern as more and more Chinese companies come in that we've seen how intrusive the Chinese government can be. So maybe those are legitimate. But again, I think the heart of what she was at, continued protection for herself and her family, is what she got. And I think in that sense, I would disagree. It was a good week for the governor.
All right. The governor did spend some political capital this past week. How does it play for Democrats going into the next election cycle? Do you think you've got a weaker governor now in terms of her support for legislative candidates, or do you think that the legislators will still be as strong as they have been in their districts?
Well, I imagine there are going to be some legislators, some Republican legislators, who pay a pretty steep price for standing up to her in whatever capacity they did this time in a primary. And from everything I was hearing in the Capitol over the last few days, that was discussed. Maybe threatened would be a better word. But in the end, look, this is still an extremely conservative state. I will say our phone's been ringing off the hook for the last few days.
You remember the days when your phone rang off the hook?
It didn't ring off the hook very much. We had to go out and recruit people and beg people to run.
But to the point there, how will the Republican legislators who were threatened with potential primary opponents, are they going to all get a primary opponent?
Well, you're talking about threatened from the far-right groups, maybe the Conduit for Commerce. And those
or
kind of
even
groups.
the governor's office for not falling in line with them.
You know, and I'm not privy to any threats from the governor's office.
I'm talking in hearsay of what I've heard. So,
you know, I think the governor has a great relationship with the legislature and great relationship with the leadership. I think right now there are 2 Republican primaries. They're both in northeast Arkansas rather. Senator Wallace and I think one of the state reps up there has a Republican primary. You know, at the same time, there are some retirements, including 2 Democrat incumbent retirements, Deborah Ferguson, both also in eastern Arkansas.
That's right.
And so, you know, look, today the Republicans have legislators represent parts of Phillips County, not exactly Republican turf. I think that really shows the depth of the Republican strength in this state. I mean, it's across the boards. So primaries are a part of a growth pattern. Right now, today, there are 2. Could there be more? Absolutely. I don't know that those are going to be generated from the governor's office, if you will. Yeah. I don't see any evidence of that.
This question for both of you. I'll go with Richard first here. What do you think we will see in future legislative sessions on tax cuts? What do you think we'll see in future legislative sessions on this FOI push?
So there's a FOIA task force. I think the Attorney General has. You know, they're going to study it. They're going to see what was enacted, see if there's need for further reform.
It's an advisory group, though. It's not a formal group. There is a formal FOI task force.
We'll see. You know, I do want to note at the end of the day, the broadcasters and the Press Association both endorsed the governor's plan.
I'm told they didn't endorse. I'm told that they supported. But they did not endorse.
All right, that's fair. But there was support. So 2 of the most vocal groups that were opposed to it said, we're fine with it as it is.
And I would say they said they could live with it.
Okay.
I don't know.
They backed off their opposition. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
You know, on tax cuts, I mean, look, 1.1 million Arkansans are going to realize tax cuts out of what the legislature just passed. Remember this, there's 2 tax tables over. I was talking with Representative Lane Jean, the budget co-chairman today. There's 2 tax tables over at FOIA, over at DF&A. One, I think, above 24,300 or 500, and one below that. The top rate is what was cut from 4.7 to 4.4. So all Arkansans that pay into the state tax are going to receive some form of tax break, even if it's 10 days worth of groceries. They're getting something across the board.
What's going to happen in the future on tax cuts from the Democratic perspective and FOI?
Well, I think the Democrats continue to talk, and we have filed bills in the past, and I think you'll see bills filed again that seek to target real tax relief for working people in Arkansas.
How is not giving a tax relief to anybody making over $25,000 not tax relief?
The folks who receive the vast majority of this tax relief, those permanent tax breaks are worth hundreds of thousands, if not millions, to them over the course of their lifetime.
Just Richard, but
you can't. Right.
But no,
there's no way you can equate that to a one-time check for $150.
Listen, a 2-income earning household, both teachers who receive raise under the LEARNS Act, making $100,000, receive tax relief.
How many kids do they have?
Arkansas
How
teachers,
many kids do they have?
1.1 million Arkansans receive tax relief.
There are 3.2 million Arkansans in the state.
I got to wrap it up, but there's going to be an FOI push for an FOI amendment, constitutional amendment. We'll keep our eyes on that. Grant Tennille, Richard Bearden, I appreciate that.
And she'll be back with more FOI stuff in the next session.
No doubt
and more tax cuts.
All right, thanks, guys. All right, we're back with more after this.